Hello everyone, today we're going to be making red envelopes for Lunar New Year. For this first step, we're going to need a pencil and a ruler and a piece of red paper. I am going to start by drawing a guideline for my envelope. I want it to be a certain size, so I'm going to measure it out. I'm going to start a 1/2 inch from the edge. This is going to be a tab that I'll fold over to create the envelope. Then I'm going to draw another line at the width of my envelope. I am doing 3 inches, and then another line 1/2 an inch away. And then a little higher up on my paper, I'm going to draw all those lines again in the same place. This way, when I go back, I can draw straight lines through here, and I know that they'll be vertical because they'll line up. So here I am lining up my ruler with these lines that I've drawn. First the one at 1/2 an inch, all the way up. And I want to make these really, really long lines because we're going to make both sides of the envelope on here, so it has to be twice as tall as you want your actual envelope to be. Now that I have these vertical lines, I'm going to go in and start measuring out the height of my envelope. I am measuring using the size of $1. Red envelopes are traditionally filled with money, so that is why I'm measuring with $1. I want to make sure that this can fit into my envelope. So I see that it's a little over 6 inches, so I'm going to draw a line at 6.5 inches, and that is going to be where my envelope folds in half. And then I'll just draw a quick line across there so I know where to fold later. Then I'm going to move up more towards the top of my envelope. I may go off camera here, let's see. More to the top of my envelope, and I'll draw another line up there too at 6.5 inches, and I'll add a little tab at the top to fold over later. Okay, so now that I have all of my straight lines drawn, I'm going to go in and add a couple little guidelines to make my tabs. So this is the inside of my envelope, so I'm writing a little I there to help me keep track. And this is going to be the back of it. This is going to be in the inside and the front. So I'm just writing that for myself so I can keep track of where I am and what I'm doing. So on this line, we're going to fold later. So I'm writing fold right there. Then I'm going to draw some little diagonal lines in these short rectangles to the side. And I only need to do this on one side. The other rectangles we won't use, and you'll see why later when we start to cut this out. Up there, I'm just rounding out the corners of my flap at the top, which I'm just doing for aesthetic reasons. So I'm going to cut along these lines. I'm going to cut out the tabs, and I'll cut out the flap at the top that unfortunately you cannot see. Now for this next step, you'll need a cutting mat and an x-acto knife or a pair of scissors. I went with the mat and x-acto knife because I think I get a more precise cut that way, but scissors are absolutely okay. So I'm going to put this mat underneath my paper, under my stencil, and I'm going to follow these lines carefully and cut this whole thing out. Here you see I'm going around these diagonal lines, these tabs that I created. We get that sort of shape there. Again, this is going to help us fold our envelope up later. And the reason I did this on the side of the paper is so that I bought myself one line that I didn't have to cut out that was nice and straight on that other tab. So now I have it all cut out. My next step is to fold this up. The most obvious fold is the one in the center. I'm going to do that one first, pressing down with my thumbnail to get a nice sharp crease. So that'll fold up like that. And then these tabs on the side, we're going to fold over into the center. And what this will do is it will create a ground for our glue so that the front of our envelope can stick to those instead of, the entire back of the sheet, and that will make sure that we actually have an opening in there. So this is what it will look like when we fold it up. And then that tab on top, we're just going to fold down. this is what our envelope will look like. Now my bottom piece is just a little too tall, so I'm going to trim a little bit off of there to make sure that it folds correctly and I don't get any bubbling or wrinkling. There it is, excellent folded envelope. Now I'm going to get out a glue stick to put this together, and I'm going to apply glue to the tabs that I folded over, just right there. Cleaning up any excess so that the two sides of my envelope don't stick together too much. Here I'm just folding it over, pressing it onto that glue, and there's my completed envelope ready to be stuffed and decorated. Now the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to decorate my envelope. I went ahead and sketched out a dragon before I started painting. I'm painting using gold. Red and gold are very traditional colors for Lunar New Year's. You'll see them a lot. Red is often considered a lucky color, so that's why it's so popular and why these envelopes are done in red. I'm painting a dragon, and in many East Asian cultures, dragons, instead of being, mean and scary like they are in Western cultures, are instead lucky, kind, and powerful. So this is a very positive dragon, not a negative dragon, and I think that's important to understand while we're doing this. There are lots of symbols associated with Lunar New Year's, way more than I can successfully cover in this video. So if you're thinking about what to put on your own envelope, I would suggest that you do some of your own research. Ask people who celebrate Lunar New Year's, or look for resources from people who celebrate Lunar New Year's to think about what to design. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a little piece of paper and I'm going to write a little message on it. You can, of course, stuff your envelope with money, but I'm going to do money and, a positive wish for the new year. Sometimes in a classroom you can't actually stuff your envelopes with money, so this is a good other option. Now I let my painting dry for a while so that I knew it wouldn't smudge, and now I'm going to go back in and erase all of my pencil marks. This will just make my design look a little bit more, clean and polished, maybe professional. Now it's time to stuff my envelope. I'm going to start with my positive wish, slide that in there, and then next I'm going to do my money, which fits very nicely thanks to our measuring from earlier. Now I can close my envelope by putting glue on this tab. So I'm going to get out that glue stick again, put a nice amount on the top, and then we can just fold that over and press it down, and that will seal our envelope. And with that, our red envelope for Lunar New Year is complete. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, following the tutorial, and creating your own red envelope for Lunar New Year's. Thanks for watching!